Hello, I am Steve Horowitz, and I am here with
Dan Plonsey.
and you are
Dan Plonsey.
and who are you here with?
Steve Horowitz.
So we are here
With one another.
to talk about
Music and other things.
1, 2, 3, 4. Right, so we're here together, and we were going to start talking about some stuff, and then Dan said that we have to start with our hats on. So I'm wondering, Dan, why do we have to start with our hats on?
Well, I just was noticing your hat and my hat, and they're both they're similar, and they're similarly worn. There's a little bit of fraying occurring with both of our hats.
That's true. This is my lowbrow hat. This is the hat like I wear. Like, this is my favorite hat. But it's totally worn out. Like, I have 2 more hats at home that are like, if this were a fancy interview, like if we were on like,
you would not
if
have
we were
hats that are frayed.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, and this has okay. So we're gonna be doing a series of podcasts, about game music and about interactive sound. I want you to be on our podcast because you can be like, I
hate game music. I don't know what you're talking about. Interactive sound.
Exactly.
I hate games.
I totally want to interview you on the podcast.
Gamers.
Well, that's the better part. Yeah. So,
the whole notion that people are spending time playing games infuriates me.
So I want to do this interview because we could then splash a graphic over you that says "Grumpy Old Man Talks About Games," and that would be fantastic. Game music. Grumpy old musician talks about game music.
Well,
would that be okay with you?
That would be totally okay with me.
Oh, now we're taking our hats off.
I'm taking my hat
Now
off.
the hats are. Whoa! Wait a minute. I feel.
But
I don't
then I have
feel.
to do this for like 5 minutes to make sure that all my hair is exactly in place.
So bringing this back to music is that something might be very unfamiliar to and out of 10 people, one person will just be like, "This is the greatest thing I've ever heard." That's what I've experienced over my whole entire career.
I mean, you and I share this preference for reaching the minority as opposed to reaching the majority. Well, like most people set out to write the pop tune that everyone's going to love, and you and I don't even try to do that. We start out saying, okay, we're going to do the weird thing, and you said this at lunch, we're going to do the weird thing, and only 10% or 20% or 1% of the audience is going to like it, but they're going to really like it. Because I mean, that's the trade-off. Well, if you're doing something that's just another pop tune, 5 minutes later no one cares. But if you do something that's challenging, maybe you only get a few people paying attention, but they pay real attention and it makes a difference.
Well, here's the thing about that is that I was delusional when I was younger because I actually did believe. You got to remember, I've been a musician since I was 6 years old.
Right.
So, I actually did believe that I could write a piece of music that would change things, that would change the world, that people would hear, that my music would go out there and it would be like the next Zappa or whoever or whatever. And it would be boom. And it would have, and then it would, so I always wanted the majority.
That we would,
I wanted,
that's true. But
I think
when we were younger, we had a slightly different take on it.
But I don't think you ever wanted the majority. I think what you said is correct, is that I did want the majority. I was just, the stuff I was into was too weird for the majority, so it never happened. And then over time, I settled and I became happy with the fact that this is the music I'm going to make, and if it really only reaches that 10% or those couple of people, I'm okay with that. Because really I'm doing it for myself, and if a couple of people like it, that's fantastic. And I get to hang out with you and play cool music with cool people.
I guess I still do have that fantasy that I'm going to, like sometimes there's an idea and I think, oh, this is a great idea. I'm going to do this, and a concert hall full of people is just going to jump to their feet and they're all gonna just love it,
right?
Because it's just so obviously great.
Yeah,
and then I'm surprised
when they don't
happen.
Right. What do you think of the Braxton piano music? We were talking about Anthony Braxton, and I know that you're a big Anthony Braxton fan. I am too, and I'm sure you are a bigger Anthony Braxton fan than I am because you've played with him. So 2 questions, like, what do you think of the solo piano music? And 2, what was it like to play with Braxton? What was your experience?
So just to clarify, I was interpreting you as talking about the music that he's written that people like Marilyn Crispell
Yeah, the solo.
and people have done solo recordings.
Oh no, I was
of.
talking about the notated. He's got
a
couple of albums
Yeah,
of
some
piano music notated.
Yeah, and then people have played these things.
It came out on
As opposed to
Yeah.
his own piano playing,
Right.
where he's recorded some quartets where he's playing piano.
Right.
Like that music is sometimes it veers between unlistenable and genius. And when you see him do it, he's like flapping like a big stork on the piano. And it's just so compelling and so wonderful.
Yeah, and I think the backstory on that stuff was that, he was stuck somewhere in Europe and he was by himself, and he just sat in a room and just wrote a bunch of notated piano music.
Oh, okay. How about you?
I like some of it better than others. There's pretty much like Braxton. There's like 6 volumes of it, or it's like there's
always a lot.
There's a lot of it. So some of it sounds like typical contemporary classical, almost like Babbitt or Stockhausen, or Boulez, and some of it is more improvised. It sounds more improvised. It's intriguing. I was curious as to what you thought about it, because you're a bigger Braxton
more
head than I am.
Because there's a recording of Stockhausen's Klavierstück 10 by Frederick Shevsky,
right,
which is so good. I mean, I love that piece, and I love his recording of it.
Yeah,
and I would put it up there with Cecil Taylor. I mean, as great avant-garde piano music.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, do I listen to any avant-garde piano music? And it would be, well, there's that piece, and then there's Cecil Taylor.
Yeah. See, I'm like, I still go back and I'll listen to Schoenberg solo piano music. Like sometimes I get up in the morning and I'm like, I just want to hear, Schoenberg solo piano music, and it's.
I heard someone play the Webern. What's that? What's Opus what?
21.
Is that it? Yeah. Anyway, they didn't do that great a job of it, but I love that piece too. But otherwise, if I want to hear piano music, it would most likely be Beethoven.
Well, okay, fair enough. So the second question, then we'll get on to another question, which was you played with Braxton. So
yeah.
What was your experience with that? And I think at Mills, or maybe
Mills, and then a few years later, he was. I had so much fun playing his music. So at Mills, I was talking to Austin about this. At Mills, he had a class called Contemporary Performance Practices, which makes it sound like it's a general course in playing different styles of contemporary music, but it in fact was you played Braxton's music, and it was even, and there were really like 3 or 4 pieces that we would play. Most notably Composition 96, which was for full orchestra, and he would just sort of hand out parts. So like I was remembering getting like a viola part, which is written in alto clef, plus there's the transposition because I was playing it on E flat alto sax, and then but fortunately you're permitted to play it without transposing. So you're just reading it as though it was in E flat, which it's not. And then the flats and sharps, of course, are in weird places because the alto clef and the treble clef are different. And then
very different.
So you're playing this thing, and and everyone else is playing they're playing trumpet parts and they're playing violin and so no one really has a part that's actually for their instrument. And then most of the people are lost within 5 seconds because they can't really play their instruments. They're actually computer music people.
Right.
And Braxton's up there and he's either singing one of the parts or sometimes he would play his sopranino playing one of the parts. And he would get so excited about it. And it was really music unlike anything else I've ever heard because of that, because it was not being played. Like if you looked at the score, all the woodwinds are kind of playing together,
Mm-hmm.
like playing the same rhythms, but in these big block chords, and all the brass are playing. As I recall, I'm hoping I'm not wrong, and the strings, and then the percussion. But it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
You couldn't perceive that any two people were playing together. It could be, you know. So there was that.
Yeah.
Then there was some years later when he was in the Bay Area. Gino Robert and John Sherba got him to put together a tentet, and so I was part of that, and that's with people who could actually play, and that was playing. Now we're playing the Ghost Trance music.
Yeah.
So the compositions in the 200 opuses, numbers, and then a year or two later we all fly to Wesleyan and play a recording. So that's in the early 2000s.
Nice.
So there we're playing it better, but he always would say, like, one of the things he would always say was, if you're not making mistakes, then you're not playing it fast enough. So there's always this freedom to make mistakes, to improvise. There's these symbols that he won't explain to you. He'll say they will do what they, they'll have an impact on you that you don't need to understand. You don't need to think about it.
Fair enough.
And just the whole way they're constructed and the freedom that the players have, but there's still some, you break into little trios, and the leader of the trio has you play some other music. Yeah. So it's just very fun. And he's super encouraging. As long as you're being really enthusiastic, that's the main thing he asks.
Got it. So first of all, Dan, it's great playing with you. It's great to have you here and to talk to you. And thanks.
Thank you. Hopefully this is just the first of many occasions where we get together and play and eat and talk.
Yeah, we should have one of those shows like old men in hats talking about music. Isn't that like, you've got the Fishing with John, and you've got like comedians in cars having coffee, and we could just be like musicians in hats just talking about shit.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, we're not eating, we're not doing anything. No. We're just talking about shit.
Yeah, wasting everyone's time.
Yeah.
Musicians in hats wasting everyone's time.
I like that. I think that's a solid, I'm down with that.